Hi, good morning, everyone. Or maybe it's not morning where you're at, but hopefully everyone is doing well and enjoying the conference. We apologize for the issues with this session last time. We're learning as the day goes on. This is our first time doing using Zoom events for this platform, so I hope you bear with us as we work out a few of the kinks, and I think we're there. So we wanted to reschedule this particular session so that you all had access and were able to hear the great resources that are going to be presented here this morning. So I want to present to you Lisa Harte Ballinger. She is the Program Support Specialist from NASA Langley Research Center. And I don't know about all of you, but when I hear NASA, I get excited. I'm kind of that outer space star, planet, moon nerd. So I'm so excited when I can, make connections with people at NASA. Lisa, Tina, I'm sorry, is going to share with us today, though, a little bit about summer and the joy of the season of summer makes everyone happy. But most importantly, how we can take that summertime and that outdoor time during the summer and connect it to some STEM learning. So with that, Tina, I'm going to let you take it away. And everyone, hope you enjoy the session.
Thank you so much, Kim. I appreciate this and I'm so grateful we were able to reschedule and still have the opportunity to connect with each of you. And so today I'm going to go ahead and get started because we have a lot to get to today that I want to share with you. I am super excited to be with you and to be sharing a little bit about NASA Earth science from the perspective of summer. So if you would in the chat, if just tell me where are you in the world and what is your favorite aspect of summer? And while you're doing that, I'm going to continue to talk a little bit. And I just kind of wanted a feel for where you're located and what it is about summer that you love. And because we have so much while you're doing that, and just like Kim was saying, when you hear the term NASA, what do you think of? I ask this at every presentation that I do to kind of get a perspective of where we are and what we think of. And if I know myself well, prior to coming to NASA, the way that I viewed NASA was much different from the way that I view it now. And what I find when I ask people about their thoughts related to NASA, I always get this space exploration, just like Kim was saying. We all love to hear about the planets, about the galaxies, about the moon exploration, going to Mars, all of those amazing, exciting opportunities that we have, rockets, and being able to go to a rocket launch and thinking about the rover on Mars and various things, and then possibilities of space exploration as they open up. But for today's talk and for today's perspective, what about this planet? The planet that we live on. A lot of people aren't aware that NASA spends a lot of time exploring our planet, planet Earth, which is the most important planet for us, and thinking about what we're doing to our planet, how we can help take care of our planet, and how we can help our learners learn about what's going on with our climate and how we can work together to solve problems that we're all facing and help them understand environmental stewardship from the perspective of NASA and citizen science. So I'm wanted to share this is a screenshot of the Earth fleet. NASA has a tremendous number of satellites that are orbiting our planet and collecting data to help us make informed decisions as we move forward. And if you look at this, you're going, oh my goodness, wow. Who knew there was that much up in our sky above us collecting cloud data, collecting tree height data, collecting all kinds of data, even data related to the percentages of plankton that are in our oceans and waters. So much is going on that is related to our Earth, and helping our learners to develop an understanding of that and where they fit in that picture and how they can contribute to that picture is something that I'm very passionate about, because I remember back to the little girl that loved to explore nature, loved to learn about what was going on around me, never, ever dreaming that one day I would get to work at NASA. So I want to take that to children. I want them to envision what's going on around them, and building upon that natural sense of curiosity and the questions that they're asking, help them to understand that they can be a part of NASA even now. And I want to share with you some about that. So here we are, ready, stem, go. So let's buckle up. I have several things I want to share with you today. The first I'll start out with is talking about GLOBE, which is a NASA sponsored project that brings learning for global learning and observation to benefit our environment to our learners. Um, and gets them outside and gets them engaged. And NASA looks at Earth as a system, and it looks at all of the various spheres that make up that system. And we're going to look at those briefly. And then I'm going to share some elementary globe resources with you that get your younger kids outside, making observations, writing in their journal, collecting data, and just being engaged in nature, which is my favorite place to be. And then, well, what about our older learners? What can we do to engage them at a little higher level? And then introduce you to the Globe Observer app, where learners can actually collect their own data and share that with NASA. And oh my goodness, I always love to talk about journaling, because that is a big aspect of what we do, helping student or learners and students to write in journals just like a scientist does. And then I'll share a little bit about a moon project that you can do with your learners or have them to do. And then some informal learning guides that we have that have a lot of resources that I do not have ample time to discuss today. And then I want to share the NASA Globe Goes to Camp project with you. We have a network of camps across the United States that we engage with and connect to NASA subject matter experts, and so many things that are available and open, and opportunities that just can help to enrich your learners' lives. So, thinking about NASA and the fact that NASA explores Earth as a system, I like to use graphic organizers to help me visualize what's going on and how the pieces all fit together. And this is a really cool graphic organizer that is developed by My NASA Data, which is a project that is sponsored by NASA that brings NASA data to learners of all ages. And then we're talking about the GLOW program, which is sponsored by NASA and also supported by NOAA, the NSF, and the Department of State. And GLOBE is a program that is worldwide. It's an education program bringing learning to students of all ages, and also kind of helping us to work together from a worldwide perspective. So, Globe is in 127 countries around the world. We have over 896,000 students, over 53,000 educators, and over 290,000 citizen scientists, all working together, collecting data about our environment, making observations out in nature, exploring, asking questions, discovering answers, and sharing all of that with each other. So think about the fact that you could collect data in the United States, and you could look at data from Australia or from Europe and lots of different countries that are there. So this is an exciting opportunity for you to Work with learners locally, regionally, across the nation, and then around the world. The GLOW program, just like NASA, is set up to look at Earth as a system and thinking about all of the components that work together and how those affect each other. Because we know that what happens in our atmosphere is going to affect our water, and what happens in our water is going to affect our biosphere, and then our pedosphere, and so on. All of these things that happen in our environment are having an impact on all of the parts of Earth as a system. Now, the GLOBE program has different components. There's an elementary GLOBE component, there's the GLOBE program, which is for learners of all ages. And then we have the GLOBE Observer app that I'll share with you, where you can actually download it on your phone or an iPad, and you can collect data that will then be contributed back to NASA. And NASA scientists have access to that. Citizen scientists around the world have access to that. It really is engaging opportunity for your learners. So when we think about the 4 seasons, and we think about the interactions that occur across spheres and within spheres, think for a moment about this summer. What are some of the things that might be going on in our atmosphere? What kind of interactions are going on throughout the summer? And if you wish, put some of that in the chat, and respond to how the interactions that are going on in the atmosphere during the summertime might affect other spheres. All right, so let's talk about the atmosphere. One of the things I wanted to spotlight, because everybody has the opportunity to explore clouds. You don't need a lot of NASA equipment or instruments to make observations about the clouds. And who doesn't remember all the way back to when you were a young child exploring and talking about the clouds and finding rabbits and dinosaurs, all kinds of things that you saw in your sky. And so NASA is very, very interested in what's going on with clouds and how clouds impact our Earth. And during the summertime, there will be different variations with clouds that are different than other seasons. And so, having kids make observations of the types of clouds they see across the seasons is an important way for them to begin to understand the differences in our atmosphere across seasons. And so during the summer, you're going to see a lot of those big, puffy cumulus clouds that we all like to look at and name the different animals that we see. And then you'll see some shifts between storm clouds and those kind of things. But having students or learners that you're working with looking up at the sky, sketching what they see, even our youngest learners can sketch what they see in the sky and talk about and use descriptive words. What they're looking at. Is it fluffy? Is it puffy? Those kinds of things. And so looking up, do you see what I see as an activity where we have learners actually sketching what they see and looking at the different levels, because clouds occur in 3 different levels in our sky. We also have a cloud identification chart that you can have the kids use when they're looking at clouds to help them. Well, what are the names to the clouds that I'm seeing? And helping them when they're making their observation. Okay, well, let's shift from the atmosphere and thinking about clouds. How do clouds affect our biosphere in the summertime? I've been out on a nice warm day enjoying the sun, and sometimes I get a little hot. And I kind of am appreciative when that cloud comes across the sky. And that's just one interaction that occurs between atmosphere and biosphere. There might be others that you might think about or want to put in the chat. And then how that interaction of the clouds in the atmosphere affecting the organisms on the surface during the summer, and also how those interactions might affect other spheres as well. So when we think about the biosphere and the temperature, think about if you went outside and were barefoot. And you can talk to your learners about this. When we go outside in the summer barefoot, what are some surfaces that we like to walk on, or maybe we try to stay away from when we're barefoot? And what we're relating that to with NASA is surface temperature. And NASA is spending a lot of time exploring surface temperature and how that is impacting the climate that we are experiencing, thinking about the different habitats where surface temperature changes are occurring, and relating that back to our cities. And if you look at this image in the center, this is a Google Earth image that was taken. If you look at that image, you can immediately pick up on, well, where are the surfaces that are going to be cooler during the summer, and where are the surfaces that are going to be warmer? And just simply using an IR thermometer, you can have learners collect surface temperature data around your location, your wherever you might be doing this instruction, whether it's a camp or an outdoor ed center or an after school program, and have them compare different surfaces and talk about those and how things might be different in the summer from in the winter, and what kind of differences that might occur as a result of that. You might also have them design a shelter for a critter. Have them actually construct a little critter and then build a shelter to protect it from the sun during the summer. And you can use UV sensitive beads where they use those with pipe cleaners and they construct a little critter and then make a shelter and talk about the importance of being mindful when we have pets or animals that we have being outdoors during the summertime, and how that we need to be careful, and even ourselves. You know, we need to help them understand that if you're outside in the sun all day long, you're getting that UV exposure, and making sure that you have a lot of water and that you go in under shelter periodically to keep you from being exposed to the sun and the high temperatures. Geosphere is another one of our spheres. And the geosphere has to do with our Earth and the surface of our Earth and all of the interactions that go on during the summer related to that. Now, when I think of the geosphere during the summer, I think of a garden. That is one of my favorite things to do is to garden during the summer, and thinking about all of the interactions between the sun, the clouds, the rain, the soil, all of those interactions that are going on during the summertime. And earlier, during our opening session, we were asked to put into the chat one of our favorite activities, and I put soil shake. If you look at the top right corner of this is a experiment where you can help children to understand the different things that are found in their soil. And you just get a clear jar and you take and go out with a little scoop or shovel and you dig up a little sample of soil and you fill your jar about halfway with soil, and then add water up to about 3/4 of the bottle and you shake it. And if you shake that bottle and then you set it down and observe it over time, the various components of soil are going to settle out into different layers. Now, there are three main components of soil: sand, silt, and clay. And those are the three things that make up soil, aside from like organic matter and various things that you might have. But the three main components are sand, silt, and clay. And what you'll find in your soil shake, when it settles out, your sand is going to settle to the bottom. And then you'll have a layer of silt and you'll have a layer of clay. And by looking at your soil shake, learners can develop an understanding of which of those three they have the greater percentage of in their soil. And one of the things that's cool to point out to them is that it takes a really nice integrated mixture of the three, because all of them bring specific um, characteristics to the soil, but a good mixture of all three produces what we call loam, Loam. And loam is what we love to see in our gardens because it has characteristics from all of those that are conducive for plants to grow and survive. In the center of the page, this is a journaling idea where you have them before they go out to kind of play in the soil and dig and to see what they find, make a prediction of what they think is going to be in their soil. And then once they do, write about how close their prediction was to what they actually found. Now, these resources are found in Elementary Globe. I mentioned Elementary Globe previously. And one of the storybooks, because Elementary Globe is comprised of 7 storybooks with learning activities that support each of them. And the Scoop on Soils is one of those storybooks. And the dog is running around everywhere, digging holes. And the characters in the story are trying to fill back in those holes so the dog doesn't get in trouble and they don't get in trouble. But as they do, they're learning that in different locations, the soil is different. And so you can actually have your learners looking at soil in different locations around your learning site and helping them to understand that in the forest, in the meadow, in a location where people are constantly trampling around across the soil, those soil types are going to be different. They're going to look different. They're going to be different colors. They're going to have different combinations of sand, silt, and clay. And when you are introducing your learners to the types of soil, you can also get samples of sand, silt, and clay and have them investigate those with a magnifying lens. What do I see? What do I feel? What do I smell? Because sand, silt, and clay all look different, they all feel different, and they all smell different. But remember a warning: we always tell our learners do not taste of the samples. I know, especially with our younger kids, they may be tempted to taste it. So make sure you point out that in nature, we don't go around tasting things because we're not sure what we might be tasting. And some things are toxic and can be very harmful. Another fun activity that I like to do with learners is to take them out to where we might be thinking about building a garden and talk about, well, how do we know this garden space is going to be fertile? How do we know it's going to be a good place to grow fruits and vegetables and flowers? Well, there's the earthworm test. And who doesn't love to dig up a nice, juicy earthworm? Oh my goodness. I've done this activity with teachers as well, and they're not always quite as enthused as our learners are. But if you go to a location and you set up different sites, maybe 4 different locations, and have them dig and then look through the sample that they dug up to count the number of earthworms or other invertebrates that they find, and helping them to understand that when we find earthworms in our soil, that is a good indicator that our soil is fertile and a good place for growing plants, because earthworms help to they dig tunnels through the soil. They help with the roots being able to get water from the soil. They help the soil to stay kind of broken up and easy for the roots to grow through. They also provide nutrients and enrich the soil as well. And so, this is an activity that we've done with campers and with elementary students, and just engaging them in outdoor education, learning about how to interact with our world and how to see signs based upon what we find in nature that help us to understand what's going on within the earth and the soil. All right, shifting over to hydrosphere. Hydrosphere is another one of those spheres that, and particularly one of the ones that the kids have the most fun in during the summer. Who doesn't love to go for a nice swim when it's nice and hot outside? But we also need to be mindful that we share with them about what's going on within the hydrosphere, and is all water safe to swim in? What might be going on in our water, and thinking about our watersheds and how that all of us are connected to a particular watershed. There's a unit that I like to do with outdoor education centers called Water Connects Us All. And then one of the main focus is looking at watersheds and how what we do with our water is going to affect someone else, because our water is flowing through the various watersheds. And so when you find your watershed, talk about the watersheds that surround you, what is going on there, because whatever happens in one location is going to flow through and is going to impact other watersheds. So it's very important that we're mindful of what we're doing and the human impact that's occurring within the water that we're using. So that is this a good activity to do, talking about the land that's draining into your water. Where is the source of the water draining from? What's going on? Are there is there agriculture land? Are there farmers that have cattle? What types of human activities are going on in your water? Is there a factory nearby? Lots of different things that we need to think about and help students and learners to understand that everything we do impacts all of the systems that make up our earth as a system. Within a lot of the things that we do, we provide journal prompts to help you engage them in thinking about what they're doing and to write about it, to consider different aspects of the water, thinking about, if you come upon a body of water and there is a really bad smell, or the temperature of the water, what can those things tell us about the water? And then also being mindful that what we do impacts the habitat of lots of different organisms that use that water source in addition to us. One of our absolute favorite activities for our learners are when we have the opportunity to collect macroinvertebrate samples and just going out into a stream. There are different areas within a stream or a river or different bodies of water that you can collect macroinvertebrates. You can look along the banks in vegetated banks area. You can look where there may be a log that's out in the water. You can look around it in shallow deposits along the shoreline of the water, and you can have them to collect samples. And freshwater macroinvertebrates, especially, are good indicators of the water quality. There will be certain species of macroinvertebrates that will indicate if there are high numbers of them or low numbers of them. That can be used to indicate the presence of certain pollutants in the water, or can be used to help you know whether there are a normal range of dissolved oxygen in the water, whether the oxygen has been depleted, looking at nitrates and whether there's a overabundance of nitrates in your water. Just a lot of different factors that macroinvertebrates can tell us about the water. And we like to use, you see the white tub here on the side where we have water and we can deposit them in. And then you see the student using the tweezers. Just remind them to be very gentle and not to squish the critter, because we do want to put those back when we're finished examining them. And then use ice trays to kind of sort your macroinvertebrates. And a lot of our states have macroinvertebrate identification guides that you can use to help you know which ones you would expect in your location and also helping with pictures and diagrams to help your learners identify the ones that they're finding. Now, when you're collecting macroinvertebrates, Globe likes to ask that you collect them in autumn and in spring. So, those are two different seasons. And by monitoring them in those seasons, you can look for changes that are normal to the season, but then also look for those things that might not be normal that would indicate that there's something going on that you need to research further. And if you are suspicious of particular things that might be affecting your water quality, you can go a step further and have your learners collect water samples and do some testing for different chemicals in the water to help them know whether or not there is a need for concern. And teaching them about water quality is a skill that will help them become environmental stewards as well as informed decision makers in the future. Now, I told you earlier that we have the Elementary Globe program, and the Elementary Globe program is established around 7 storybook modules. And to get to those, I believe Miss Amy is going to put the link in the chat, but also the link is here, globe.gov/elementary globe, and you will have access to the storybooks. The storybooks are free to download. The learning activities are free to download. There are e-readers that support the books, and they are in 7 different languages. So a lot of resources there. They are targeted for kindergarten through 4th grade, but they are applicable to 5th and 6th grade also because they're written on a 5th to 6th grade reading level. But they're meant to be read alouds in elementary grade levels. So I have used them from 4-year-old all the way up to 8th grade, actually, in different capacities. Some of the books are a little bit more advanced than others. So if you read through the books and see which ones fit the learning needs of your particular learner, just like the one all about Earth. Now, that one includes a play that the learners can act out, and it's a lot of fun. But each one of the books has at least 3 learning activities that have the kids outside making observations and learning about their environment. Now, we like to do a lot of collaborations within what we call a STEM learning ecosystem. And we like to engage the community. So, not only are we working with informal learning centers, after school programs, schools, we work with community leaders, local industry, getting everyone involved because we know it takes a learning ecosystem to support the development of STEM. And in these pictures, you actually see high school students from a carpentry shop class that are actually helping our elementary schools by creating what we call an instrument shelter. So they actually build these instrument shelters that elementary students can put up in their schoolyard, or you can use in an informal learning center or an after school program where if you want to collect such things as air temperature or surface temperature or water temperature, soil, and you have some instruments that you do that with, like a thermometer and such, you have a place to store those because our instruments need to be acclimated to the air temperature in which the data is going to be collected. So, this is a cool way to engage your teenagers in mentoring and helping your younger learners by being part of constructing the instrument shelters that support the learning that the younger kids are doing. So I always like to share these pictures because I find it very cool that these students had that opportunity to give back to their community and be part of a program that's designed to engage all in the STEM learning ecosystem. And this is what the instrument shelter looks like. And on the Globe site, you can find instructions for building the instrument shelter and for how to place it, because it needs to be located in a particular spot away from trees or a building, kind of out in the open. And it goes through all of the steps for that. Another thing that we have that is really good for working with your older campers, your older learners, older after school students, and that is our Globe Observer app. And this is a free app, free to download to any device, that allows you to immediately start collecting data. You can make a cloud observation. You can look for mosquito habitats, helping us to know where those mosquito habitats are and how to get rid of them, because a lot of the mosquitoes that are breeding in our areas are harmful. And so teaching them to identify where those are, such as an old tire, getting rid of that water that is growing stagnant and becoming a breeding ground for mosquitoes. Land cover. What types of surface cover are where you're located in the ecosystems that you live in, and submitting that data back to NASA. Then trees, learning about our trees and how our planet is being affected by deforestation. A lot of opportunities there for collecting that data. Now, this is a QR code. If you're interested in getting access to that app, you can scan that QR code. We can also put that link in the chat. But the Globe Observer, actually, on the right side, you'll see an image of what it will look like once you have it loaded. And you just simply select clouds or mosquito habitat or land cover trees, and it will walk you through a tutorial of how to collect that data. Now, the cool thing about collecting that data, you see the picture in the center where we're standing on the Earth and there's a satellite up above. Now, I told you earlier that we have Earth orbiting satellites that are going around the planet collecting data. Well, because of those clouds that we sometimes love and we sometimes don't, um, they are kind of in the way sometimes. And so when you make an observation from the surface of the ground, you make that observation, you submit that data, then the satellite is making an observation, possibly at the same time you're making your observation, and it is able to look at what the satellite saw, what you saw, and get a clearer picture of what's going on in our atmosphere and on the surface of our planet. So, making an observation as a citizen scientist with NASA is a pretty cool thing to tell your learners that they're getting to be able to do. A little bit more about journaling. We have a lot of opportunities for journaling. We have something we call NASA Globe Nature Note observations, where just simply taking kids outside with their journal, maybe some colored pencils, and having them sit for a few moments. Kind of that mindfulness in the moment, helping them to slow down, to listen, to observe, to feel, just having them to step away from a lot of the distractions that we all are bombarded with every day, and getting in tune with nature has so many benefits for them emotionally and mentally, and helping to engage them in nature. I like to think of it as instilling a love for nature that lasts a lifetime. I know that that is where a lot of the passion for what I do came from, is having that opportunity as a child to just be in nature, mindful of what was happening around me, with my head swimming with all kinds of questions. And so having them make those observations in their journal, and all of the resources that I've shared with you today, in the handout that you'll be able to access. All of these links are provided that will enable you to get access to a lot of these activities that will help you to help them develop that sense of lifelong learning. We do a lot across the seasons where maybe you take them outside and you're in the woods or you're near a body of water and you have them just kind of sketch the big picture. What do you see? You see this pond, you see this forest, and have them kind of sketch that big picture view. But then have them step back and say, okay, now we're going to zoom in on some tiny aspect of what we're looking at. Maybe it's a ladybug. Maybe it's a leaf. Maybe it's a bark on a tree that they want to look at. Maybe it's a minnow swimming in the water. Whatever it might be, talk about the season, talk about the weather. Is it hot? Is it cold? What's going on in that season? Of course, we've been talking about summer and thinking about, so in the summer, what type of clothing do we wear in this season? How is that related to the temperature? And then we have an activity where we do the colors of the season, where they just go out for this particular season using some colored pencils and find, what are the colors that I see? And then you can also, if you're working with the same learners throughout the seasons, you can have them do that in different seasons and compare how the colors change across the seasons. Now, this is a moon journal prompt where you have them look at the moon in the evening and jot down what they see. Just sketch the moon as they see it and record those observations over the period of a month. And you can start on whichever day. You can start on the first of the month if you wish, or it could be the middle. It doesn't matter as long as you continue that observation for at least 30 days. Having them just sketch the moon as they see it. And then talking to them about the patterns that they see and making predictions. And if you do this across seasons, you'll begin to find there are similarities within a season based on what you're observing with your moon. Now, this is an image, and you can pull lots of images, but this one in particular, that if they compare this with their sketch or their drawings, then they can actually name the moon phases as they occurred throughout the month and look at how that changes based on the position of the moon in the sky. Another thing I wanted to share with you is that we have a variety of globe guides for different informal education audiences. We have a Girl Scout guide. If you work with Girl Scouts, we have Think Like a Citizen Scientist Journey, and there is a link where you can access that. We also have a 4-H activity guide that explores clouds and has learning resources that are specifically outlined for 4-H. We have camp guides. We actually have 4. We have a guide for clouds, a guide for land cover, for mosquito habitat, and for trees. So these 4 guides are aligned with the Globe Observer app. So if you want to use the Globe Observer app in your outdoor ed center or after school programming, these guides would also work for you. And they are all developed around the various components of the app. They have a lot of learning activities and resources, information about how to collect data related to those, a lot of resources there. We also have 2 library guides. One supports the Color Our World initiative that libraries are doing. And we have a lot of activities featuring Globe that are applicable for libraries. And then Level Up at Your Library is another guide that we have that supports that reading program as well. We also have a network of outdoor education centers and camps that we connect with throughout the year. Right now, we're connecting with our summer camps and doing a lot of citizen science, informal STEAM explorations, And if you are interested in learning how you can bring NASA Globe to your informal learning center, engaging kids this summer, um, there's a QR code there that you can submit an application. This summer, our schedule is going to be in for the week of June 23rd, we're going to be spotlighting clouds. Do you see what I see? In July 7th, that week, we'll be spotlighting what's all the buzz about with mosquito habitats. In July 21st to 25th, make every tree count with trees. In August, or July the 28th through August the 1st, a changing perspective, lane cover, and remote sensing. And August the 4th through the 8th, water connects us all. Now, these resources are completely free. The training that you might need for these, if you reach out to me, if you're interested in me working with your staff to get them trained in implementing any of these activities. That is all free. It is sponsored by NASA and funded through the NESIC project. So we have camps across the United States. We have 37 camps this summer that are participating in 11 different states. So we would love for you to submit an application. I would get with you to develop a program that specifically fits your needs. Even if you're not a camp, but you have an outdoor ed center, we have resources aligned for that as well. So at this time, I am going to, we have just about 4 minutes left. There is my contact information if you wish to email me or just have a question that you would like to ask. And I'm going to stop share. And looks like our chat has been busy. I am super excited to see that. And thank you to Amy Elizor for submitting links in the chat for you to access. And there are also additional activities in the handout that I haven't gotten to within the session. I introduced you to some, but there's others there for you to explore. So I'm super excited to have had this opportunity to speak with you. And I will turn it over to Kim if there are no further questions.
Tina, thank you so much. There was so much great information. I was going crazy in the chat. My brain was just going with ideas. But yeah, I want to hold space for a few minutes. If anyone has some questions, please, you are able to come off chat and just ask them. And or you, I don't see any in the chat, but you're able to just ask Tina live if you want. So I'll give everyone just a minute. Are there any questions while we have our Globe and NASA expert with us? I do want to encourage everyone, the Globe Observer app is fantastic and it is so easy to use. And kids get so excited when I remember getting the information where the data we submitted matched with the satellite, and they were so excited to know that they were connecting directly with NASA. So absolutely fantastic.
Yes, prior to coming to NASA, I was a middle school teacher for 18 years, and I used NASA resources in the classroom, and the kids would always get so excited, not knowing that one day I would actually be developing those. So it's pretty phenomenal, and I
That
still am not over the fact that I get to work for NASA.
that is so cool.
Dream
Well,
job,
as we wrap
dream
up,
job. I said dream job.
Thank you. It is.
definitely. Well, as we wrap up, just want to remind everyone that when we end the session, you will have a feedback form. Please let us know how you enjoyed this session and how you, what your thoughts were about it. And then you're going to remember to go back to the lobby so that you can select your next session. We'll be starting on the hour. So you have a little 10-minute break to stretch your legs, catch a drink, whatever you might need. All the resources that Tina suggested to you and that she is sharing, you can access by going to the sessions tab and looking at under Tina's session, and you should have access to all those materials. So again, Tina, thank you very much. I learned a
Thank you.
lot. I can't wait to go try some of these activities outside this summer.
Thank you, Kim, for the opportunity.
Absolutely. Have a great day, everybody.
Tina, thank you. I was in another session and I just became a citizen science ambassador. I went through all my training and had
Wonderful.
onboarding. I love citizen science. I have been
Yay.
doing citizen science activities with my grands. The oldest ones are like 19 and 17.
Yeah.
We've been doing citizen science since they were little. Our favorite is the bird watching one that usually happens
Yes.
in April. And it's funny because my oldest granddaughter will be 19 in a few weeks. And even now, she'll come over when she's visiting, she'll go, Mama, do we have any of those citizen science stuff we can do? You
Mm-hmm.
know, and she also now works in out of school time. She works
Yay.
Y in Augusta, and she's, you know, like, I need the website. I want to do some of this stuff with my kids. So
Mm-hmm.
I feel good that I shared it with her, and now she's continuing to share
Mm-hmm.
that as she goes about her little career in youth development. So
Awesome. Well, share my contact or any of this information with her. And I love to connect with kids and
okay.
I do virtual visits and things of that nature too. So in fact I wrote a curriculum for 21 CCLC after school programming that
And I think was Ohio a part of that 21st century CCLC programming? Because
oh,
was it
it's
before
been like
COVID?
yes, it was before COVID.
Okay, yes, I went through the train the trainer
Oh,
with
cool.
the 21st century programs as a part
Nice.
of the support for the curriculum and everything. So I got all those materials here in Machine
Yay.
State somewhere. So yes, yes,
Okay.
yes. And
Very good.
I also done a couple of train the trainers that NASA Glenn had
Yes.
offered. And so when I'm out, like I literally just got a request to do a conference in August, and I will probably pull out some of, because I was there last year. So this year they
Mhm.
want me to come back and do 2 sessions. So I will probably pull out some of my NASA curriculum activities and share it with this group of folks down here
Very
in
good.
South Carolina. So yeah.
Okay. Well, I have a colleague that's in South Carolina, Amy Elazor.
Okay.
She is in Columbia, South Carolina.
And that's exactly where the conference is going to be in.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, she was the one helping by putting the links in the chat for me today.
Really? Oh, okay. Um, Amy, I don't know if you're here, but hey, I'm Sheila
There
from
she is.
South Carolina. So yes, you're muted.
Sorry. Hi. It's so nice
Hi.
to meet you.
Nice to meet you too. Nice to meet you too. So yeah, I'm gonna be sharing some NASA stuff in August. There's a conference that is hosted by Burnham University's The Scale program. So yeah,
Yeah,
and they invited me back to present this year for 2 sessions. Last year I did 1 session. This year they're like, we want 2 sessions. So I'm like, okay. And I'll probably pull out some of my NASA stuff this
that's
time.
awesome. I'm from Greenville originally, so
Okay, okay.
spent a lot of time at Furman. My mom was a graduate.
Really? Okay. And I am a White Riley Peterson Policy Fellow through Furman University as well. So
Fabulous. What an honor.
yes, 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 yes. So yay for South Carolina.
Cool. Well, stay in touch. We'd like to hear how it goes
Okay.
and any opportunity you see for us to connect, just let us know.
And I definitely will, because the past 5 years, I've been working with the Ohio After School Network as
Okay.
their STEM education specialist. But as of last month, I transitioned, and now I'm the manager of Teen Science Cafe networks through STEM Next. So I'm definitely going to keep your information to share with our networks, especially for virtual
Wonderful.
visits and things like that, just so that they know that they have a resource. And Amy, we have one Teen Science Cafe in Charleston, and I'm going to make sure that they have your information
Mhm.
so that if they, are interested in having you do something virtual or in person, that they know that you are a resource for them.
Great.
Sounds great. And Tina loves Charleston, and she can always stay here to help you out too.
So you can
So
always come down and visit. Right, right,
yeah,
right.
Oh, yes.
we always open each other's homes.
Yep.
Yes. I love Charleston. My daughter moved here too. And so Charleston is where we go for our day trips when we're doing our mother
Nice.
dates.
We do day trips to Folly often.
Yep.
Really? Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Nice
great.
to meet you.
Nice to meet you too. And I think everybody is gone. There might be a few people still holding on, but I'll let everybody go and get to their break. And thank you both.
Thank
Great
you.
job, Tina.
All right.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Bye.